Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I realize it's been a little while, but I haven't been getting much in. So I apologize for that, but thank you for sticking with me. Today I'm super excited to bring you this. This is the MS-03 Heavy Gunner by Magic Square. This is their masterpiece version of their Brawl. And he is phenomenal. He's not perfect. We'll go over that. But they nailed it with the Legend scale, and they've knocked it out of the park with the Masterpiece version. So, quick look at the box, and bear in mind it's going to be a little hard because it's so big because of my small review area. Beautiful artwork on the front. On the side, you've got a silhouette of the tank mode. Definitely reminiscent of the 80s art style. On the back, you've got a much better silhouette picture than what we saw in the Legends box. Looks really good. Nice stats here on the back as well. And on this side, pretty plain. But overall, nice work. But we're not here for boxes, are we? Let's go ahead and get into it. As usual, we'll start with accessories. He does come with his blaster. It's unpainted plastic, but it is nicely detailed. Done in gray plastic. Hollow at the end. Looks good. And it does transform, giving him the ability to hold it in robot mode and stow it in tank mode on the top. He comes with the rear cannons for tank mode. Nice. This is actually painted. Looks nice. These do not separate. They are, at least I don't think they do. I don't want to risk it. But they do look nice. They attach on the bottom with these L-shaped clips. You do have full motion, which is nice. Another thing they've added this time is you have the ability to use it as a gun. I like to bring it this way to make it a little bit shorter. That way it doesn't seem too long. But in addition to that, there's a clip on his arm that will accept this, so you can also mount it on his arm. So this is a nicely thought out addition. You get two of these fog lights, again painted, and this time, rather than being painted, they have an orange colored lens on the front, which is a nice touch. It matches the orange colored lens on the front of the tank as well. It's nicely done. I'm not going to put this on camera because these are extremely tight, so it would take forever. But you do get two of those, and once you have them in, you never need to take them off again, which is fine by me. And here we have the leg for combined mode. Nicely done. Matching colors and paint. A little bit of extra plastic here. No biggie. But done in the toy colors. I know that they are releasing a set to give it the toon look that everybody wants so much, including me. But it is nicely sculpted. You do have the same articulation with up and down on a ratchet, as well as to the side on a ratchet. Some people have said that they can't get it to go back straight. I don't have that problem. Just once you move it and you want it straight again, just give it a push right here. And there's one final click on that ratchet that you need to engage, and it does straighten up. But it does come folded like that. It is a little bit of work to get it straight because it's such a tight joint. Just unfold it and click it into place. But otherwise, other than tight joints, it's a really nice piece. I can't wait to get the full leg assembled in the combined mode. So let's take a look at the figure. And I gotta say, I do love it. Bringing it in close, looking at that face sculpt. The entire thing is fully painted, so the gray that you see is painted. Nice orange for the crest and the eyes. Beautiful red paint for the mouth. It does have the ability to rotate 360, look up all the way and down a decent amount, which is great. No side to side, but it's really not needed, honestly. Looking at the shoulders, nice and solid all the way across, which is good to see. Coming to the arms. The arms are ratcheted almost to a fault. Same with the legs. But this is all painted, by the way. Everything you see is painted, head to toe. But the arms are ratcheted, so you can get up to there. You do have full 360 as well as a butterfly. So you can get poses across the chest, which is phenomenal. And everything, just bear in mind, everything is tight due to the paint, but the ratchets, they make it difficult to manipulate them. It's nice that they're there. I imagine they'll loosen up over time, but when you're wanting a straight up and down pose, it's sometimes a challenge to get it straight up and down, but still an amazing figure. Arms, got some detail here on the sides for the tank and the treads. Keep in mind it does scratch easily. I don't know if you can see it, but I do have a small scratch here. So be careful with the figure, as you would with all painted figures. But full 360. You do have a bicep rotation above the elbow, and a single joint gets you more than 90 degrees, until it's blocked by the sculpt, which is great, given what they had to work with. Painted forearm, hands. They do pivot out, done in black plastic. No paint on the hands. That's about it as far as unpainted surfaces. But Magic Square does do a phenomenal job with their hands. Fingers can splay all the way out, and you do have a knuckle here and a single joint in the actual finger. Thumb is on a ball, and you do get a joint there as well. With that ability to splay out, tilt the hand out, it gives you some phenomenal posing options with the hands. Magic Square does an awesome job. Coming down to the waist, again, all the gray is fully painted. I don't know if you're aware, or anybody else is aware, but these are actually removable. If you choose to take them off, you can. It's not necessary, but they're pegged in. So if you want to take them off, it's your option. I don't see the need to do so, as is a part of the character. But if you want to, you can. As far as the waist, you do get full rotation. Might need to tilt it forward a little bit to clear the back. And you can also pop this off his backpack if you want full range, and then put it back on. But you do get that rotation. You do get a full ab crunch. All the way to 90 degrees, which looks phenomenal. And with the head being able to tilt back, it's actually useful. Coming down to the hips. This time, one difference is they added a flap to the hip skirts. And you can bring the sides up all the way. That will give you ratcheted joints out. And if you want to push it, you can get the full 90 degrees. I'm not going to do it because it's really tight on these ratchets. There we go. Pretty close. But the ratchets themselves, as I said before, are ratcheted almost to a fault, because the last click to get the leg straight can be a challenge. And one thing you want to be aware of is you can impact the hip skirt with the leg. I've seen a lot of people that have paint chips, so be careful. But to get the last ratchet, there we go, straight up and down, it is a challenge to get there, but you can do it. But just be aware. Looks like I might have actually chipped mine a little bit too. Oh no, I'm lucky. But you can impact the upper thigh into the hip skirt. So whenever you're rotating it, make sure you bring it down a little bit to help prevent that. But when you do, you get a phenomenal range up with that kick. And you can swing the hip skirt back up to straight. Always remember to bring your hip flaps up, because you can damage them as well when you're manipulating it. So just be careful with these hips. Otherwise, they look great, all done in all gray paint. You do have rotation at the hip here as well. Just again, be mindful of hitting that hip skirt. Coming down to the knees, you do have a double jointed knee, which does give you the full run as much as the sculpt will allow, which is awesome. And again, the knees are ratcheted as well. So lots of ratchets in this guy. Coming down to the legs, you've got some really nice tank detail on the legs. Inside, a little bit plain, but still painted. Outside of the leg, you got the treads. Now this is the added piece from the Legend size figure. It definitely helped clean this section up. We'll do a little bit of a comparison here in a little bit. Coming down to the feet, you've got no up and down tilt, but you do have a rocker, which will get you all the way out. So there's definitely a little bit of a lacking articulation in the feet, but it is still definitely posable. Quick look at the back. This time, the one thing that is different is, rather than these tanks be on the added gun, they are the heel spurs, which they do peg in, but you can, if you want to, adjust them down, which I do recommend doing, because just naturally standing, he does have a tendency to wobble. But using the heel spurs, you can, good Lord, you can alleviate that problem. Nice tight ratchets. I did go ahead and put the lights in. I do recommend, if you're comfortable, shaving a little bit of the paint off the very tips of the peg, just to make it easier to get started, because they did not account for the paint when coming up with the size of the pegs. So it is very difficult to get in. But ultimately, it does look really nice, and I'm never going to take those back out, to be honest. But all around, a beautifully painted and very well articulated figure. I think Magic Square is knocking it out of the park again, this time in Masterpiece scale. So I'm really excited for the upcoming release of Swindle. So now we can bring in his blaster. And typical Masterpiece style, it just pegs in. Bring your thumb down and peg it into the hand, which it's a nice snug fit. But once you get it there, it's not going anywhere. And he will hold that just fine. With the dual cannons, you do have two options for robot mode. First one being, you can bring down the handle, and he can use it as a regular blaster. Just pegs in like the other blaster, and he does hold it just fine. But to me, it's a little large. It's a bit obnoxious, to be honest. It's a great option, and it's very cool that they included it. But what I prefer to do, if I do want to use it, is utilize the peg here on the side. Just fold the handle back up. And just to make it a little less obnoxious, I like to do it this way. Swing the arms around to where it's a bit shorter. And peg this in on the forearm. Which, actually, I think that look is pretty cool. I don't know if I'll display it that way, but that is definitely an amazing option. And here we have him with the MMC version. This is definitely a great option for Brawl. If you already have him, then whether or not you want to replace him is up to you. More cartoon accurate with the Magic Square than with the MMC, obviously. But a lot more paint, a lot more ratcheting. So a little bit of a hardware improvement, as well as more toon accurate if that's what you're going for. But the MMC is still an amazing figure, which I still haven't decided yet whether or not I'm going to sell him, to be honest. Here we have him with the Legend Scale version. It is nice that the colors on the MP match the C version, the more tuned colors. You can really see the similarities, but the differences are definitely obvious, especially the little changes they made, such as covering up the bits on the side of the leg. But one thing I do like is the change in the heels, adding the tank from the rear of the tank mode to the heel, giving it more stability. Made a lot of sense to make that change. But definitely Masterpiece or Legend Scale, two fantastic bots. So let's go ahead and get through the transformation. Now you will definitely need a spudger because the paint makes for some very tight connections. Let's go ahead and do a few minor things here. First thing you want to do is definitely rotate the waist so you don't forget about it later. And make sure that your hands are in fists because we need to stow them. Make sure you bend the elbow because you won't be able to open this panel unless you do. But rotate the hands in. Rotate the forearm and collapse. We'll do the same over here. Stow the hand and be careful when you put them in. Make sure it goes in easily because they don't come out easily sometimes. But rotate the arm and collapse. And now I like to go ahead and move this down because you won't be able to make this connection if you do it in the improper order. Now we can pop our head up and we can bring these side panels out. And pull up and rotate down. I like to spin the arms here as well. But pulling up gives you more clearance for these pieces. You want to pull this piece down, bring out the front of the tank completely, and now you want to make this connection down here because you won't be able to make it with the head in place. So slide this up and these two tabs will connect there on the backpack. Now, as far as the head, go ahead and bring that in. Fold the head down. It'll store inside just like that. Now we can bring up these pieces and they're going to extend up all the way on this double hinge. And just try and be as careful as possible not to scratch the center of the chest piece there. And again, bring it up on this double hinge. The arms should be in the down position as far as the shoulders, so make sure you engage that. And the pegs will connect to these holes in the front of the tank. as well as these pegs here on the side of the waist. And that's pretty much the front of the tank done. Now let's start on the legs. Go ahead and undo this connection here and there. Pull this out to the side and just kind of leave it. Rotate the side. This is where people run into trouble because this connection is very, very tight. You want to use your spudger and just slowly work this piece out because you don't want to break it. But once it's loose, you can swing your foot to the side, gain access to this connection here. Pull that section forward. Let's go ahead and stow the foot. So swing this connection in all the way. Bring it down. We'll just leave it like that for now. But this section will come out. So he says. There we go. You want to extend this, flip and flip. We're going to pull the treads down. Once again, you'll probably need a spudger here because these connections are very tight. This is going to rotate 180. Flip this section around. We'll do that last. But what we can do now is bring this section around and just leave it there temporarily. What we want to do here now is on this piece, flip this tab down, flip it in, and this piece is going to flip into place along the knee. You want to make sure that you have clearance on this top section, like so. So now what we can do is we can collapse this here along the leg. One thing we did not do is there's a tab here. Flip this out and then collapse the leg. So the foot can close. This will now tab into the top of the foot. And we can now start tabbing in the sides of the tank. So get connections here, here, and on the front. So make that connection, then get the front situated. And once you have everything pegged in on the sides, I like to make this connection last. Just bringing in the tread to the bottom. So let's do the other leg. And it does help to bring these up, the hip skirts up, in order to give yourself a little room, especially on the second leg. So out and out. Now, coming to this connection again, be careful. And now we can access this panel. Swing the leg out. Swing this section out. Make that connection there. Undo this. Giving you the ability to swing. Taking care of the foot, tilt it out, bring this section all the way in. Don't forget to bring this tab out. So this section, this panel should fold down. Can now collapse this. Bring that panel in, push it into place. Swing this around, opening your panels. Collapse there. Lock this panel in on your foot. And now start making your connections. During the transformation, you'll get to a point where it doesn't feel like it's going to go, then it actually clicks into place, and that allows everything to come together better, if that makes. Once you have everything lined up, it certainly clicks into place. And holds together nice and sturdy. Last step, just to give it a little bit more stability on the back, bring your heel up and give it a twist, because there's a peg here that pegs into the back. And you'll actually do that twice. Not the easiest, not the most straightforward, and not the most user-friendly transformation, but there we have it. So the alt mode. So let's take a look at the tank mode. Gotta admit, I really do like it. It's fantastic. Coming in for a closer look, green is fully painted, gray is fully painted throughout, which is very odd for Matter Square's first release, at least. Beautiful detail. I'm going to put a cartoon image right here. You can see the similarities right down to the gun, the machine gun on the front. Detail throughout, the orange lights on the front. Even the detail throughout the back. It looks amazing, honestly. Taking a closer look, you've got detail on the treads, which could have used a little bit of breakup, but it's not bad at all. They did add rolling wheels, definitely a robot living in there. But the paint and the sculpted detail, they do look phenomenal throughout. Coming around to the back, I do like the functionality of the fuel tanks on the rear, which they do peg in and give some stability to the rear in alt mode, because the legs are very tight. They tend to pop out, so this helps keep them in place. Coming around the side, more of the same. There's a good view from the back. They've even added some extra sculpted detail there from the bottom of the feet. And there is a view from the front. The cannon does extend if you want to. It's very tight, but you can raise the cannon also, and it does rotate. Just be careful, because there's some spots where it's gonna rub, like right here. You don't want to lose the paint, so just be careful. But overall, it looks fantastic. We can actually bring in our accessories now as well. So we want to line up the L bracket to the L-shaped holes here in the rear. And plug them in like so. So now you have the double cannons on the rear, looking fantastic. And lastly, we can bring in the gun mounted on the top. Just bear in mind, it is a tight fit because of the paint, but not as bad as the fog lights. And for comparison, here he is with the MMC Brawl. Definitely similar as far as color and accessories, but definitely a different style. MMC went with their own thing. Still a great figure. No way to mock it at all. But Matter Square has a beat as far as paint and cartoon accuracy, to be honest. But both amazing options. So now we're going to do the simple combine mode. Just want to make sure you take everything off. And contract the barrel. Go ahead and give this guy a spin. Be careful with the paint rub. And we bring in our foot. Very simple change here. So we open up the connection here on the bottom, and we just plug it in. And these two pegs will go into those two ports in the legs. Like so. Zoom out a bit. And there we have one leg done. And I'll do this again in the final combined mode video. I believe that these are going to disconnect and come to the rear. Like that. So you do still have that functionality as far as the bend or the ankle tilt. And it's just surprising how stable that feels with those ratchets. It's pretty astounding. So Magic Square, nice job. Let's start wrapping things up by talking about the negatives. The lack of articulation as far as up and down is there. A little bit of a disappointment, but it is made up for with the articulation in the other parts of the bot. Paint being prone to scratches, just you want to be careful, especially around those hips where the legs do impact the hip skirts. I can't overemphasize how careful you need to be with that portion. So always be mindful. Other than that, there's no real negatives that I can think of. It's a decent bot. Positives, well, there's a lot of them. The paint that is there is done fantastically. Despite the tendency to scratch, it does look magnificent, and it does hold up in most cases, except for very hard impacts. I've got one scratch on mine. It's very minor on the treads. You can't really see it unless you look for it, but be careful. The articulation is phenomenal. Much like we saw with the Legend scale, nothing new there, but it does make for a very posable bot. The presence definitely has the cartoon accuracy that a lot of people are going for, including myself. More so than the MMC offering, definitely more so than the Zeta offering, which is really not cartoon accurate in any way. But overall, I think it's an amazing figure. I do highly recommend it. So if you can find it, if you do need a Brawl, pick it up for your Masterpiece collection. I may actually get two, one for combined mode and one for robot mode, but we'll see. But definitely a great figure. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to get your bell on so you get notified of future content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.